No. Hello and welcome to, I believe, episode 104 of Sutton and Back.
That's hard to believe. It's 2 years.
I know.
So it's our 2-year anniversary. Happy anniversary, Jason.
It's crazy. It's going to go that fast.
Yeah.
Well,
so let's obviously start off talking about the Alliance of American Football.
Yes, indeed.
Pleasant surprises. I was really excited by some of the innovations. I thought I'd miss the kickoffs. I didn't miss the kickoffs at all.
No. We didn't get to see it in action, but, people were like, well, how about onside kicks? And you saw what the rule is, right?
I love the rule for onside kicks, and I love the rule. That's like 4th and 12 on the 28, right?
Yeah, it's 4th and 12 on the 28 if you're trailing by a certain number of points late in the game. And that's how you attempt an onside kick.
It's creative.
Yeah.
And I love the fact they didn't kick extra points.
No.
That goes back to the World Football League, though. The World Football League in the 70s gave you 7 points for a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
And the extra point wasn't called it. It was called the action point. And you had a run or pass.
Okay.
So that's always kind of been. And I like it.
Yeah.
I like the plays. But I think the thing, I like the attendance in Orlando. I like the broadcast. They did a lot of self-promotion, which is normal on the first day. They do making sure everybody understood it. They were explaining it.
And Sky Church.
Yeah. So in San Antonio, they did 27,800. Orlando did 20,000. Birmingham did 17,000. And Phoenix did 15,000. And I'm skeptical about Phoenix.
Yeah.
So we'll see next week. I really thought the Atlanta team wasn't very good. And that's kind of what I'm kind of a little bit worried if they're not good matchups, if they're not even. Like the Atlanta team with Matt Sims, 30 years old, a quarterback, didn't look like they were going to be able to move the ball against anybody.
No.
And their offensive line looked like a sieve. Terrence Garvin, former Steeler, looked like all world. Like, why is he not in the NFL? He looked amazing. He had an interception. He had a couple sacks. He was all over the field.
Yeah.
Bring him back. They
need a pass rusher.
They need a pass rusher. Let's talk about the eye in the sky. You and I were talking about that a little off camera.
Yeah. That's what I've been rambling on the podcast for forever.
What I liked about it was not only how quick it was.
Right.
But the fact that the woman that was the official in Orlando was talking into the microphone the whole time, and fans could hear it.
Yeah.
And she was going back and forth, and I thought she was going to make the wrong call, and she kept looking at the replay, looking at different angles, and then she made the call, which I think everybody thought was the right call, and I thought, wow, this really works.
Well, it's silly to have the official on the field who was part of the team that missed the call run all the way over to the side. This way, because she's watching every single play, and if it's a bad pass interference, if it's a fumble, she can immediately call down and say, we need to look at this again. And then she explains her whole process. It just makes so much sense.
I think it's one of the. I really think it's something that the NFL is going to steal. I
don't know why they haven't had it for a decade.
You've got to do this. It just made so much sense.
Yeah.
It just really it's smart, and the fans are more into it. It doesn't take as long, and it was exciting. Now the other thing I'm excited about was the TV ratings.
Yeah.
So it drew a 2.1. The NBA game that was up against drew a 2.0.
Yeah.
But more importantly, Duke, Virginia drew only 2.3. And that was the most hyped game of that weekend, of any game.
Yes.
So at 2.1, that shows me there was curiosity and interest. So I think that's really, really healthy.
Well, people love football. They were smart.
I'm one of the ones that said there's too much football. But if this is going to be a developmental league for the NFL, which I hope it can be, I definitely think there's an opportunity for it. It makes sense to me. When they explained on the television when the game started, it was when you need a player, you want a player that's NFL ready. You want a player that's played under an NFL coach in an NFL system and is ready to step on the field and play at an NFL level. And I really think this gives you that.
Yeah. And you get a chance for, college heroes that just weren't quite good enough to be there. Tim Tebow would have been the perfect quarterback for this league. And
we still can't throw.
Yeah. And you get, some smaller prospects, and you get, I mean, even look at a guy like James Harrison that spent, 5 years on practice squads and now is a borderline Hall of Famer. Like,
yeah, he might have got his shot. I mean, I saw Terrence Garver on the Steelers kickoff team, and he was always down there making coverage on the kickoff team. But I never really saw him play linebacker, and he was really, really, really good. So if there are guys like that, just need to be on the right team in the right situation, and this league can provide that, I think it's a big thing.
Right. And like you said, if they're feeder systems and they're running, at least a vanilla playbook of what the NFL, some of the affiliates are running, then it's easier to step in and be ready to go.
Yeah. I love the fact that Steve Spurrier called the Philly special.
Yeah.
That was a fun play. I thought the fans in Orlando really looked like they had a good time.
Yes.
And they're playing at UCF, which makes sense. Smaller venue. And there was a lot of students there wearing togas for the Apollos.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of cool, too.
I mean, if they embrace a lot of, some of the stuff that especially even like some of the tailgating stuff that the NFL has sort of quashed down, let that, and be a little bit more fun, then you never really know what this could really take off.
Well, next week is the second week, so the luster is gone. It's not the first week anymore. So the curiosity, we'll see. But hopefully, some people will see these numbers and get curious and want to watch. So hopefully, it does well next week as well.
Right. And like you said, if you get more situations like Orlando, where you get a bunch of students that are there enjoying the game and they're wearing togas, then it becomes like an event,
But the issue this week is that game was on CBS. And now these other games are on CBS Sports Channel.
Yeah.
So for a lot of people, they're not going to have it, or they're probably not going to be able to find it. So that's a little bit of a scary thing.
You would figure, I mean, obviously CBS has what they have, but this seems like a perfect thing for, one of those other companies to get weird with, like, even with something like Netflix or, Amazon or somebody to just put, this league, I don't know what the league would be worth, but, just an alternative streaming service,
We'll see where it goes, but I was very pleased with week 1, and I thought it boded well.
Very much so.
Let's stay at football here. Let's talk about Kareem Hunt.
Yes.
I'm not surprised that somebody signed him before the draft, not knowing whether he could play or not, but I'm not surprised on that.
No.
And I'm not surprised, I guess, that the Browns signed him because that was the general manager that drafted him.
Yeah. And unlike, this was bad, but it didn't have the brutality of the Ray Rice video. But unlike Ray Rice, Kareem Hunt is 23 years old and probably still a top 5 running back in the NFL. And somebody was going to sign him quickly.
And I thought Kareem Hunt did get out in front of it quickly and didn't deny that it happened and, asked for a second chance, asked for forgiveness. But he's not going to be able to play on opening day. He's going to get suspended for a few games.
Right, definitely.
What's your guess?
I think he gets at least 6.
That's my number. I was going to say 6, half a dozen games.
And again, it's one of those tough things where it's like, I'm a big believer in second, third, even fourth and fifth chances.
Yeah.
And I don't know what he's gone through, whether he's doing off the field, on the field, what all that kind of stuff is. And I know a lot of, the talking heads are talking about bad timing for this story. I think this is great timing. Like it just had the Super Bowl, but I think people's minds aren't really on football right now, I think this to me, it didn't seem like it was nearly as big of a story as, people thought it was going to be.
No. The bigger story is probably Kyler Murray.
It's not has anything to do with the draft or free agent. You're way out of front. It's way before your new season, so people can be mad, about something else when the new season starts. They'll find some other reason to complain.
So what do you think about Kyler Murray?
I was surprised. I thought he was going to drag it out a little bit longer, but,
he came out and said that his future's in football, his heart's in football, and he's going to give the signing bonus back.
Yeah. Well, if he's the first-round pick, he's going to have more guaranteed money in football than he is in baseball.
All right, so putting you on the spot here, where does he go in the draft?
Obviously a lot is going to depend on the combine, but I think he goes on that 10 to 15 range. I think there's going to be people that fall in love with him, and They watch Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's quite as good as Baker Mayfield was, but coming from that same system, putting up those kind of numbers, he's exceptionally fast.
He's exceptionally fast. He's smaller than Baker Mayfield.
Yeah, he's smaller than Drew Brees and Russell Wilson. I think Doug Flutie would be the only quarterback he would technically have been taller than that played in the NFL.
So you're going where on the draft?
I think in that 10 to 15 range. I think somebody either trades up, or you got teams like Miami and Washington in that range that need a quarterback. I would say, as a Steeler fan, my fear is that he falls to the Patriots.
And they make him something other than a quarterback.
Well, no, then he becomes Brady's heir apparent after Brady finally does retire at some point. He's the kind of guy, if he had 2 years under Belichick and Brady and then got to be the starter, he could be kind of scary, I think.
I'm skeptical of how well he's going to do in the NFL.
I mean, it's never been more suited towards a player like that. You can't hit the quarterback. You can't hit the receivers over the middle. It's a lot more college concepts and,
Yeah, but you're going to be throwing through the trees, man. I don't know. If they keep him in the pocket, I think he's going to have a tough time.
And as people point out, like Russell Wilson at his, 5'10", 5'11", he's got a stocky build, whereas Kyler Murray is much frailer, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good word. I mean, I think I don't know how well he's going to do if he really gets hit. He really get hit in college. He moved around a lot,
right?
And these guys are a lot faster than the guys he played against in college. That's for sure.
But I do know from watching his college tape, like he does a good job he does a little bit of that Russell Wilson. Like when he runs, he's looking to get down or out of bounds and not take contact.
Right.
Now, obviously in the NFL, you're one hit away. But, I mean, he's probably already better than half the quarterbacks in the NFL.
Whoa.
I mean, I'd rather have him than Blake.
Whoa. That's a big statement, Jason.
Did you see the quarterbacks in the NFL?
I did. I don't think he's better than half of them. I think he's better than 10 of them.
I think he's better than half.
Okay. Well, I think he goes in the first round. I think he goes somewhere between 17 and 22. So I'm not as optimistic as you are. But I think somebody will take a flyer on him.
I mean, I think a lot of it depends, too. Like you have Haskins is supposed to be the first quarterback off the board from Ohio State. Most people are mocking him 6 to the Giants. But you've got this chunk, from what I've read anyway, and I'm not a Mel Kiper or a Todd McShay, but you have, you got Rosa, Quentin Williams, and then you've got like 10 or 15 defensive players that are all sort of in that same range and grade, depending on what you want and what you think. So if somebody wants to move up, I'm sure teams like the Jets and some other teams would be more than willing to trade, let somebody hop ahead of the Giants. And if that happens, and all of a sudden, you see how quarterbacks go every year. Once one of them goes, then everybody's fearful and everybody wants to get their guy, and they just go. And again, like I said, you got the Skins really need a quarterback because Alex Smith may never play quarterback again. That leg injury was brutal, and he's in his 30s. The Dolphins let go of Ryan Tannehill. The Jaguars have terrible Blake Bortles.
Oh, there's no doubt there's teams that need quarterback. There's no doubt at all.
I mean, there always is, but I mean, you got some guy,
Yeah. We'll have to see.
Yeah. And again, if his hand size is the right, I know it's all the stupid things. And he's got good spark numbers and he looks good in his pro day, then, all those things factor in.
One of my business things tonight is the fact that the Red Sox are going to use TSA PreCheck to let people in the building.
Well, I think that's great.
I think it's great as well. And there's some other teams that are going to use Clear. So, I mean, teams are acknowledging that they need to do something more different than what they're doing now because of, you get 30, 40,000 people and they have to go through a metal detector. That backs it up quite a bit. So you've got to figure out a way that you can do it in a way that's not going to be, it's going to contribute to speed and getting people in and making them happy when they get in.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense.
So I'm kind of excited we get to see that.
We had a lot of
courtesy of one of our listeners, Matt Swan.
Okay.
Matt told me he saw a billboard on I-95 today in Miami, and it was a billboard in Spanish, and the translation was Miller Lite is made with corn syrup. So obviously Bud Light feels pretty confident in their information, and they're not letting this go.
It's interesting.
I just think it's hilarious. It's a story. They knew what they were doing because they put a lot of money behind that. Look at that. Look at the Look at how many commercials they had devoted to that in the Super Bowl at $5 a pop. Well, okay, that's a lot of money. So they must have been pretty sure that not only was this true, but that people would assume that it was not good for them and look for another beer that didn't have it. So we'll have to see how sales go, and we'll have to look at switching behavior.
It's true. It's very true. Now, we had a bunch of NBA trades.
Matt, thanks for finding that for us. I thought it was really interesting.
Yes, indeed.
And I'm appreciative of the fact that it keeps on going.
Indeed.
We'll talk about some NBA.
I do. I figured we start out talking about little Kevin Durant and his whining again. I find him to be a perpetual bitch. I just do. I think anyone that has burner accounts.
I can't argue with
you. What's that?
I can't argue with you.
No. But I mean, it's sort of this weird, we have the player empowerment, as LeBron likes to call it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where guys are signing 1-year deals, 2-year deals. They don't want to commit to stay anywhere. They don't want to deny that, they're always like, talk to me in the offseason, talk to me in the offseason. But you can't deny that that's what people want to talk about. Like, if you're a pending free agent, people are going to want to talk about your pending free agency, especially if you're Kevin Durant and you've been very non-committal and you've had public fights with your teammates. Like,
sure. I mean, it's a story. I mean, if you're a team in a market like the Knicks with plenty of money,
yeah,
you've got to tell that story because you got to give your fans hope.
Right.
So it makes the season more exciting for them, and they can root to tank and get Zion Williamson and sign Kevin Durant, and all of a sudden you get a pretty interesting Knicks team.
A very interesting Knicks team. While we're on the subject of Zion Williams, who's amazing to watch. If you are the Knicks and you get the first overall pick and you get Zion, would you trade him for Anthony Davis?
No.
See, I wouldn't either.
I wouldn't trade it for anybody. I just think that somebody that is that dominant at that level, you have to think they're going to be a top 10 player in the NBA for you. Right.
And you have him at 4 or 5 years on a rookie deal. Anthony Davis has a history of injuries. And while he's certainly amazing to watch, and I won't take anything away from him, but at the same time, like, you look at some of the teams he's had in New Orleans, and while that GM has not done a fantastic job, and I know you had the Boogie Cousins injury, and you've had, and obviously, so you've had some different factors. If you're that good, you should have won at least a playoff series.
Agreed. And I don't, I don't think he's as good long-term as Joel Embiid.
I don't think he's as good as Embiid's a better player when healthy, I think.
Yeah, and he's been healthy, but
yeah,
it took him a while to get healthy. But I like Embiid's game much better than a lot of other people.
Oh, I love Embiid. Plus he's fun.
He's very much fun.
And we got to see the first of their new trade team in Philadelphia with former Magic player Tobias Harris and former Clipper and former 5 other teams. And they look really, really good.
I think they have as much depth as any team in the NBA right now.
Yeah.
I actually think they go deeper than Golden State.
If Magic had not included that pick and gave them Terrence Ross, they would have been really formidable.
Yeah, I mean, I like what they've done. I definitely think the way the Celtics are playing, I'm not surprised that the Sixers are the number 1 seed in the East. I know Toronto, but I just don't know if the depth is there and the heart is there.
And we have to see how that Marc Gasol trade works out. Because I'm not sure how that works for Toronto exactly. Because this is Marc Gasol 2019, not like 2016, 2017.
I think Joe Embiid eats his lunch.
Yeah. I mean, and historically, Marc Gasol has done very well against him. But, that's a different time, different place.
I think Embiid is passionate and driven right now to see what this is going to go. It's a great story to me.
And the Celtics, much like the Warriors, but much to a lesser degree, they've got the same drama with Kyrie. Where at one point Kyrie's like, if they'll have me, I want to be a Celtic for life. And then now he's, well, we'll see. Let's talk about it in the summer. And he seems genuinely unhappy.
You know what? I actually like him less than I like Kevin Durant.
Really?
And I'm not crazy about Kevin Durant.
And you got to wonder, like, obviously when you went there and you had Gordon Hayward, you thought you had a second star to play with.
Yes, you did.
And then I think between that and last year when they went to the Eastern Conference Finals, and, you know, the Boston crowd loves Marcus Smart and Scary Terry and Tatum, and, you know, I don't know if he feels appreciated enough in that city.
Right.
But it's been such a thing that Danny Ainge had to come out and say that we're engaged and the wedding is in the summer, implying that he still thinks they're going to keep him. But I don't know.
Hey, at the same time, Danny Ainge is telling the Pelicans don't do anything. Talk to us in the summer. Let's see.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting. If they don't make the finals, they're going to blow up part of that team.
Yeah.
And get the team they want.
Well, I think if they can get Anthony Davis, then Kyrie would stay because apparently they're friends, unless Kyrie wants to go play with KD in New York or whatever again. Now, obviously, it's a ton of content. It's a ton of stuff to talk about. But do you think the era of sort of, you know, as LeBron puts it, player empowerment, where people are signing these small deals and, you know, I mean, Anthony Davis is, you know, 2 years away from being a free agent and he's demanding you know, all these players demanding trades. And I think
what the agents have done is the agents have figured out how to neutralize the bird rule.
Yes.
In the small contract to go there for 1 or 2 years and then use your bird rights. That's the model now. And LeBron was the pioneer in doing that.
And like I said, I think it's great for, you know, as just an outside NBA fan who, you know, I sort of have the Knicks that I've sort of pseudo-adopted over the years just because you took me to games when I was little and I just sort of loved Madison Square Garden. But if I was a hardcore fan, I think I might be bothered by it a little bit. That I feel like I never get my team, that it's always people are just picking up, you know?
Yeah. You haven't had your team for 20 years.
No. But I mean, like, if I'm the Celtics and we get Kyrie and I get all excited and it's like, well, I don't want to buy a Kyrie jersey because Kyrie's probably leaving next year.
I know. That's why some teams have that deal. If you buy a jersey, if you use your American Express card to buy a jersey and the player gets traded, you bring your jersey back and get another jersey.
Oh.
I like that deal.
It's a very fan-friendly deal. That is very nice.
I was very excited to see Russell Westbrook get his 9th consecutive triple-double, tying Wilt.
Yes.
So I like that a lot.
And I like the national media sort of flipped the story again, where they were mad at Russ for 2 years for whatever reason. And now there's a lot of his Russ not getting enough credit stories.
And I like that Russ is, like we talked about on the show last time, I love the fact that Russ is blending his game and fitting in with Paul George.
Yes.
I really, really like that.
And I do have to call out The Ringer, which said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard. They like to poo-poo the triple-double. That's one of their favorite things because they're anti-Westbrook. And then they went on a rant about how LeBron's 27, 7, and 7 is more impressive, even though Russell Westbrook averaged 30, 11, and 10, which just is an idiotic statement, even if you don't
Totally
good.
It's just totally stupid.
Yeah, it made no sense whatsoever.
But I also like the comeback that the Thunder did against the Rockets.
Oh, yeah.
That was pretty impressive. There's 2 comebacks tonight. Who's the other one?
The Celtics lost to...
Yeah. The team came back on them. It was a big number, too.
Big time, yeah. Big time.
Baseball update? No update.
I know that Bryce Harper at San Francisco is linked right now.
Bryce Harper's linked to San Francisco, Philadelphia, San Diego. Those are the 3 that he's most likely to go to.
Okay.
Or back to Washington. But the deal is, you know, based upon Albert Pujols signing a 10-year contract, and you saw what you got after year 6 with Albert Pujols.
Right.
Nobody wants to give anybody a 10-year contract.
No, but Harper is 4 or 5 years younger than when Albert signed that contract.
But I still don't want to give anybody. I would give somebody 5 or 6 years. That's the most I'd ever give anybody. Too much can happen in baseball.
And I think if you're the owners in baseball too, you're like, all right, we give this guy 10 years then those players just below him, they're going to get 8-year contracts?
Yeah, I mean, you're going to be tied up forever, and you're going to, you have this. They need to fix the cap. They need to provide for more movement and also more stability. So they've got a mess. But, supposedly if I was a betting man now, Manny Machado would go on the White Sox, which I don't know why he'd want to do that. You're not going to win with the White Sox next year.
No.
And if I'm Bryce Harper, you put Realmuto already in Philadelphia. Philadelphia makes a lot of sense. But, and Philadelphia's a good contender in the East. You've already weakened Washington by leaving, going to Philadelphia. So that makes sense. On the other hand, if there's a team that's going to give you more than 6 years, it's probably the Padres, because they have a bunch of really, really young players coming up.
Yeah.
And they want to be in the mix for a while, and they need to have credibility in that division, which has the Dodgers and the Giants.
Right.
So you got to have credibility. I would love to see him go to the Padres and see what the Padres do.
And even though he's not anywhere even near as good as Mike Trout, I think Bryce Harper's a much more recognizable face to the national people.
Right.
Because he's a little bit more outspoken, and, he's got the beard and the hair, and,
We'll see.
a lot more self-promotion.
What else we talk about? Entertainment. We both watched the most recent episode of True Detective. The show just killing for me, just kills it. It is so well done. We talk about it every week. It's so well done. But last night was really, for those of you that haven't seen it, I'm just going to say last night's episode was spectacular.
Well, all the performances have been really, really good.
And I don't know how they're going to wind up in 2 weeks.
No, I do not.
Okay.
Hints of season 1 and mixed in there and everything else. So
that said, I finally went and saw Glass last night.
And you liked it.
And I liked it. And, I think the people that have knocked it because they probably never saw Unbreakable. Because for a lot of people, Samuel Jackson and Bruce Willis are new characters to them.
Okay.
They have no idea what their backstory is because they're just there. And they don't really do a good job in the beginning of the movie setting a backstory. Now, they do toward the end of the movie, but they don't in the beginning. And so you could be kind of lost.
Well, also, outside of the director and that tacked on ending, there was nothing in Split that suggested it was part of this universe,
Mm-hmm.
Split was a crazy guy, that kidnapped a girl with multiple personalities,
If anything, James McAvoy is better in this than he was in Split.
And he was excellent in Split. But that movie, it felt like it could stand on its own, and then they tacked on the Mr. Glass stuff at the end.
Yeah, but this one, I can hardly wait till you see it, because I'd really like to talk to you about the ending and how it goes.
Yes.
Because they bring in some characters that were like support characters in the other movies, and they have a critical role in the movie. So it's really, I thought he did a really good job. A lot of people won't like it because, like I said, they didn't see the first one, and a lot of people aren't going to like it because of the way it ends. And I'm not going to spoil the ending. I'm not even telling you the ending.
Well, hopefully we don't want it. Still new.
I'm going to tell you the ending is not what you would expect. So you'll probably really like it for that reason.
Well, I forgot to write down the name of the movie I watched. It was really good, but I'll tell people about it next week. It was a small little indie film. It was really good, so it's worth watching. But if you have Netflix, there's a show called Sex Education with Gillian Anderson from X-Files fame.
Uh-huh.
It's a wonderful, wonderful show. It's a show about basically Gillian Anderson is a sex therapist.
Okay.
And her son is sort of he's just one of those kids that's sort of there in high school. And people learn what his mother does, and he sort of becomes a sex therapist for kids in his class. Sometimes for the good, sometimes for the bad. But it talks about different forms of sexuality and just all the different hang-ups that kids have. But it does it in a really, it's still a very warming and funny show, but it does it in a really mature way that I think it'd be really nice for kids to get to see those sort of, I think it represents those issues in a way that I don't think a lot of shows really do for kids.
I did watch something else yesterday because Mom wanted to watch it. And so I watched it, and it was an unexpected joy for me to watch it. And we watched a documentary on Mr. Rogers. And I thought it was really, really powerful. I learned a lot of things about Mr. Rogers I had no idea about.
Oh, and if you want to watch something that'll make you just roll your eyes and be, say what the hell every 5 minutes, there's a documentary on Netflix called Kidnapped by the Neighbor. It's a true story based on a book. It's absolutely insane. Like every 5 minutes, you're just like, what? Huh? It's worth watching for that alone, just because it's such a bonkers story in the true crime genre.
If you want to feel good, watch Mr. Rogers.
Okay.
And if you want to know, when I watched it, you know what I kept thinking? I wish Trump watched Mr. Rogers when he was a kid. I kept thinking that. Because obviously a lot of things that Mr. Rogers stood for, Trump doesn't like. But I don't want to get political, so let's move on. So Jason and I were together for 3 meals in New Orleans.
Yes, we were.
So we went to the City Barbecue together.
Yes.
Which had, I agree with Jason, some of the best burn ends I've ever had, if not the best burn ends I've ever had. Amazing burn ends.
Yeah.
Then we had dinner at our favorite GW Finn's. And for 17 years, I've been going to GW Finn's. In fact, I wrote an online review for him today. And I just said, I've never been anywhere where the food and the service is as consistently excellent as GW Finn's. It's just
great service.
And then we wound up with our breakfast at Cake on Saturday morning. And again, the omelet there is amazing. It's so light and airy. And the content, whatever you put in it, is just really enhanced by the omelet. And then the biscuit, and of course the bakery goods. And I had some kind of a open-faced blueberry tart, I would say it was. And it was amazing.
Yeah.
So we posted pictures, and I have to tell you, it's like if you can only go to one city to eat in New Orleans, it'd have to get a big hello from me, because I love eating in New Orleans.
There are just so many places down here.
And I had a great meal in Baton Rouge at a place called Parain Seafood. And I had drum there, and it was probably the best fish I've had all year. And it's amazing. You know, I never really liked fish until I started going to New Orleans. And I really like fish in New Orleans, which got me liking fish in Florida. But fish in New Orleans is special for me. It's really, really good. So an amazing weekend of eating.
Yes.
And then after staying in the Sully Mansion, which is a bed and breakfast, and paying about probably $40 a night more than I would pay in a hotel, I'll probably never stay in another hotel in New Orleans, because the bed and breakfast at this mansion was phenomenal. Great room, great ambiance, great location in the Garden District. Easy to get around. It was perfect. So a great weekend, a good anniversary celebration with your mom.
And I guess before we take off, we have to wish a very happy birthday to one of our Patreon sponsors and our family member, Kaylee.
A big happy birthday to Kaylee. And I hope she had a great time with her mom in LA.
I'm sure they did.
All right, I'm trying to line up our first business guest for next Sunday, so I'll be working on that.
All right. So again, thanks to everybody that continues to support us. Keep asking questions, emailing us. If you really like what you hear and you want to, please give us a review on iTunes. And if you feel like giving us $1 or $2 a month to help us keep the lights on and all that good stuff, then go to patreon.com, Sutton Family, or Sutton and Back Family Style, and become a family member.
We welcome you with open arms into our family.
Yes, indeed. So we are out.